Hi, Adrian. How are you?
Great. How are you?
Fine, thanks. Can you hear me okay?
I can hear you well. How about on your end?
Yep, I got you loud and clear.
Wonderful.
Okay.
So,
You faded out. You faded out for just a little bit there. Say it again.
so I was just going to say, as going to go through these questions, you'll probably hear like rustling of papers. That's probably I have so many different papers on my desk right now, just like with class notes and things that I want to ask you. So if you hear rustling, it's not for the action. It's probably just the papers.
Okay, no problem. And Adrian, let me be clear too. So our interview today, it's not the complete interview. It's just the first part of it, right?
Correct. I think there's a lot here. If we can like break it up into two segments, like I'll kind of share with you the format that I have right now. Is right now I have four kind of different segments. It seems like we could probably do two different topics, and maybe we can do like two separate interviews.
Okay.
But I just of course wanted to start it with your story and your experience with Ifá.
Okay.
And then going after that, talking about practicing and your experience practicing in the United States, because I saw that in your video blog that you spent a lot of time in Nigeria and brought your, of course, like what you learned in Nigeria, got with you to the United States, and like how that has influenced, your teachings and like how you approach Ifá. And then third would be kind of talking, like I said, about the integration of technology into the practicing of the religion.
Okay.
And
So that would be the third part, right?
pardon?
That's three parts, right?
Correct.
Okay.
And then the fourth one is with talking about Ogun and the age of Ogun.
No problem. It sounds fine. So we got a 4-part interview. Sounds good.
Okay.
And so what we're
if you have any questions, just want to kind of separate that differently than I did.
Okay, no problem. No. I think your order is fine. And I just want to be clear. We're gonna do 4 separate sessions, correct?
Sure, that sounds great. If you have time for that, I definitely do.
Okay, we might be able to get 2 done today.
Okay, that sounds great.
All right. So thanks, Adrienne, and I'm ready to start whenever you are.
Absolutely. So I have the recording going on right now. So just jumping into how you were introduced to Ifá.
Okay.
How it was presented to you, if you would grow up with it, just your story.
Okay. Yeah, I really like that question a lot because I love talking about, how I got involved with Ifá as a way of life for me. My name is Ìyánífá IfáŞèyí Bamgbàlà, and I am a Yoruba West African priestess. I am a priestess of Òrìṣà Ọbàtálá as well. 5 years before I was ordained and initiated into Ifá, I was initiated into the Tibetan priesthood. And I grew up as a Christian, and Christianity really helped me to develop the discipline that was necessary for me to be a responsible and disciplined Ifá practitioner. So I'm very thankful to Christianity for that. I'm also thankful to my grandmother and my mother for that as well. I had dreams. I had a lot of vivid dreams about spirits. Very early on, I was a little girl having these dreams, but somewhere in my adult life, I began to have dreams about colorful people. They were dressed in colorful clothes. They were definitely African. They were speaking an African language. At this time, I was attending very devoutly a Christian church in New Orleans, Louisiana. I loved it very much. Had a great experience there. The Orishas were who were coming to me in these dreams, and they basically surrounded me in one of these dreams, and I was very afraid. They came out of the forest. I was in the forest in this dream, and they were making lots of noise, but it seemed celebratory. They weren't threatening. I was just afraid because I was surprised and I was stunned, and there were so many of them. And they basically surrounded me and began to dance around me and jump around me in a circle. And there was nowhere for me to go in the dream, so I submitted to their presence. What I learned later on was that I was being initiated in the spirit, even though I had not been initiated formally at that time, in real life. You can be still. Though I had not been initiated formally at that time in real life. I did some meditation, I did some prayer and introspection, and what I learned was that it was time for me to move on. I knew that there was something more ancient. I knew that there was something more ancestral. I knew that there was something that I was missing, that I wasn't receiving in Christianity. I felt like I had stopped growing in Christianity. And that's certainly not a knock against Christianity. That's just my reality. That's what I experienced. I also had a strong feeling that there was something more roots-based, more African-centered that I didn't know about because I kept having dreams about African spirituality, African spiritual things. What I began to do was ask God to show me what it was that I was feeling a void for. I asked God to reveal to me, something more ancient spiritually, something more ancestral spiritually. I began to actually use my Buddhist practices of chanting. I created an affirmation asking God to reveal this to me, and I began to chant it. And I remember the night very clearly, chanting it under a full moon. And about 3 months later, I was introduced into Ifa by some friends of mine who were already practicing the spirituality. And from there, I just really took off. Once I was introduced to Ifa, I knew without question, without a shadow of a doubt, that this was for me. It was 100% plus connection and certainty that this was what I was looking for, and this is what I was feeling a void for. And I feel like in that moment, I married Ifa. I truly feel like that. I remember getting my first Ifa reading. My ancestors were waiting on me to communicate with them in that way, so much so that they burst the door open to the temple room where I was being read or receiving my dafa. They burst the doors open to the temple room in a gust of wind. They burst the windows open in a gust of wind and knocked all that person's ancestor pictures, their ancestor staff over. All the things related to the ancestors in that temple room where I was getting my dafa were knocked over by the strong gust of wind. The door was closed. There was no opening in the door. But when the Odu came out, and I will keep that to myself, but when the Odu came out at that time, my ancestors burst the door open, and the priest at the time divined to find out what my ancestors wanted. Thought it was going to be, big things, but they only wanted honey and wine. It was a celebration. And I remember the priest saying to me, IfáŞèyí, you're a very good girl. You're a good girl. You're a great woman. They don't want anything. They just want, wine and honey, like a lot of wine and honey. So they're celebrating, and you're very sweet, and you should remain sweet, but don't be too kind. I'm a very kind-hearted woman, and I had a habit at the time of just giving whatever I had to anybody who needed it, but I was advised many times against that, and I have since developed better boundaries, more healthy boundaries around that behavior. But that is how I was introduced into Ifa. I went to Nigeria, and I was initiated into the priesthood of Ifa and at Ogbayonu Temple in Oshogbo, Osun State, Nigeria. After that, really before that, I started immersing myself in Ifa studies, reading whatever I could get my hands on, talking to people who I thought I could trust, and chanting, making offerings to my ancestors, making offerings to the spirit of my destiny, And I believe truly in my heart and in my soul that the Baris and the ancestor reverence and my prayers and meditations to God were what helped me to get the money that I needed to make that journey. I remember what I did and how the money started coming in. I think of it as a formula, because I remember exactly what I started doing before the money started coming in. And so I share that with other people who are interested, but who don't have the means, the financial means to make the journey. And I assure them, once you put your mind to it and you start making your day-to-day behaviors match up and parallel with your heartfelt desires, then the Orishas, God, your ancestors, the spirit of your own destiny, your Oripin, they will meet you sometimes more than halfway to facilitate that journey. And there is nothing like that journey. There's nothing like it, for better or for worse, bittersweet as it may be. It changes you for the rest of your life. You will never be the same after making that journey and going through those spiritual rites and ceremonies, if you really allow yourself to be open and take it in. That is how I became involved in the priesthood of Ifa, the short version. I tried to make it short anyway.
Yeah, that's very.
Adriane, have I answered your first question adequately?
Yes, absolutely.
Okay.
So, kind of just going off of that, why did you decide, after you were initiated into Ifa, why did you decide then to go onwards with your practice and become an Ìyánífá?
Okay, that's a very, very that's a good question, Adriane. When a woman becomes initiated into the priesthood of Ifa, that makes her, she's an Amal Awo, or a student of Ifa. She has the title of Ìyánífá, but she's not truly Ìyánífá until she is trained on a variety of spiritual practices and healing services and becomes competent in delivering those services for herself first, for her family, and for her community. So the title is one thing, but to live out the title in day-to-day life experiences is truly what makes a woman initiated into Ifa and Ìyánífá, as well as her character. Character is everything. I cannot speak about it enough. And that is a constant combing out and, internal assessment of one's own behavior, one's own thoughts, one's words, one's interactions with their brothers and sisters, their elders, one's decision-making processes, etc., etc. That is truly the essence of Ìyánífá. Let me see. What was the other part of your question?
I was just asking, after you made that distinction, because I didn't realize that when you're initiated as a woman into Ifa that you will have that title.
Yes.
So going off of that,
why then did I decide to continue on? And I forgot to mention earlier on too that initially I was told that I was a daughter of Oshun, that Oshun would be my ruling Orisha. And when I went into the initiation grove, I had already seen Orisha Obatala, by the way, in my dreams. And when he showed up, he showed up larger and more magnanimously, than any Orisha I had ever seen in dreams. And I didn't know if that was because he is Orishanla, the great Orisha, father of all Orishas, or if it was because he was my guardian Orisha. I didn't know. So Orisha Oshun, she plays an integral part in my life, and it has not been confirmed through Dafa that she is my mother Orisha, but she continues to present herself in ways in the spirit realm that indicate that she is my mother Orisha, and so I trust her. Now, going back to the second part of your second question, what what prompted me to continue on and want to continue my studies in Ifa, I knew that my people in the diaspora, you touched me, Adrian. That's a really difficult question for me. I know the answer to it, but it's one that touches my soul. Once I realized how I was being helped through the practice and my devotion to Ifa, I actually, and went to Nigeria, I actually became a little bit angry. I was angry because I felt like my people have been robbed. I was angry because, I'm seeing the drug dealing in the streets. I'm seeing the children trying to hustle. I'm seeing the miseducation, the lack of education. I'm seeing my brothers be targeted by the police. I'm seeing my people be disenfranchised. Have a difficult time getting their business started, have a difficult time just gaining the wherewithal. I see my people fighting each other like crabs in a barrel, not trusting one another so that we can work together to start businesses. I'm seeing the vast devastation of oppression and systemic discrimination and racism worldwide. I'm watching this happen globally. And I became very angry when I saw the results of Ifa in my own life. And I thought my people have been robbed. And I felt like robbing my people has robbed the planet, has robbed the entire planet. I became angry. And then I became very motivated. Kind of these things all happened at the same time. And I said, to myself, IfáŞèyí, you have to share this information. You have to share it. You have to make it your mission to, help people to be introduced to it, who are feeling the same way you felt, like they were missing something, and who are looking for something, and who are searching for something. And I made it my primary goal. I made actually a commitment to God. I made a commitment to Ifa, that this is the work that I would devote my life to, and God just so happened to fix it to where it intertwined perfectly with my actual career as a psychologist, a therapist, as a counselor. There is nothing that I do career-wise that does not automatically connect and relate to Ifa. Everything blends with Ifa. And so for that I say spirit, everything, everything, everything. But I have a fire that will not burn out no matter what, for teaching Ifa, for continuing to develop myself in Ifa, and serving God, serving my ancestors, serving the Orishas. I feel like doing this work, redeems and gives my ancestors justice. I feel like my ancestors had the brunt of the hard work. I don't complain about my life. I don't complain about challenges. I don't get downtrodden or, hopeless, because I know that their sacrifices were highly effective. Their literal blood sacrifices were not in vain. And so it is my mission. Even if I didn't want to do it, I would die if I don't do this work. You understand? I would die. My spirit would die if I didn't do Ifa work, if I could not be an Ìyánífá. When I've gotten into relationships with men who did not understand my love for Ifa, those relationships never worked out. Ifa is so big in my life that if the man is not a practitioner himself, a Babalawo himself, or an up-and-coming Babalawo himself, it's simply that relationship will not work out. My Orishas, they speak to me, they'll start speaking to other people. My Orishas in my spiritual practice, they demand space, period. Physical space, psychological space, spiritual space, emotional space. They demand space, because that is how exponentially vast their light shines inside of me and from within me and radiates from within me. The world needs good priests, whether they are Ifa practitioners, Christians, Muslims, Hindus, Buddhists. The world needs good priests. The world needs good divining priests. And they all don't need to be male. The world needs good male and female priests. Ifa, historically speaking, a lot of people would say is more patriarchal and male dominated. It doesn't have to be that way. Women can learn Ifa. Women can practice and learn Ifa, but it takes discipline. But no matter what you do, if you say you're serious about it, it's going to require discipline. I give thanks to my grandmother and my mother that I am as disciplined as I am, because without their guidance and mentorship and discipline, I would not be cut out properly to do the work that I am doing. I'm very self-motivated, I'm very self-organized, I'm very self-disciplined, and I have high expectations of my students because I see great potential in them, and so I give them the right amount of nurturing with discipline. My mother provided a large degree of nurturing, while my grandmother came down heavy like iron with that discipline component. And so I have a nice blend of the two of their presences and their energies in my life, and as it relates to me, or as it expresses itself through my work as well. Another reason why I decided to go further with practicing Ifa, teaching Ifa, and immersing myself in Ifa is because the Orishas themselves were talking to me. My ancestors were talking to me. They've been guiding me. They tell me things. They show me things that no person can show me. These are not things in books. They don't exist in books, not that I have seen yet. And so I realized very early on that there is an inextricable connection between myself, my living self made of flesh, and the spirit world. That I am very close to the spirit world, and I have a connection that enables them to talk to me directly, and that enables me to speak to them very directly without a medium, direct communication with very quick and effective and efficient results, not only for myself, but also on behalf of the people whom I pray for and people whom I do spiritual work for.
That's amazing. That's beautiful.
Thank you.
Yeah, that. But just the way that you have approached Ifa, and the diligence that you have, and the resiliency that you've developed and have in you. I think I was watching one of your video blogs, and you mentioned that you have shared with your family the practices of Ifa, and in a way that isn't making them practice, but you've shown them how it's affected you and the positive that it's given you. And you said that in your videos that even now some of your family members practice Ifa. How was the conversation between you and your family members? How did that go?
You're hitting hard, Adrian. But I love your questions because they get to the heart of the matter. Yes, what I said in that video on YouTube is true. I didn't make them. I simply shared with them in a very non-imposing, non-judgmental way what I was doing. I would educate them and show them what I was doing. I would share literature with them. I would share videos with them. Whatever I could get my hands on, books, I would share books with them. Whatever I could get my hands on that I could give them to be informed. Even if they didn't want to practice, I just wanted them to know that this exists and that this is real. And this is something that is very easy for us to pick up, and it will fill those spaces of emptiness, spiritual emptiness, that a lot of our people, when I say our people, I'm talking about specifically melanated people, but I also have known, for my brothers and sisters of European and Caucasian descent to be filled as well through Ifa. But yes, my family practices, my mother practices, my sister practices. I have aunts who practice, and I have brothers who practice, and this is all as a result of just me following God's directions. You are supposed to save your family. You are supposed to be a contributor to their salvation. Once you learn about a thing or a series of things that has brought freedom spiritually, psychologically, economically, emotionally, relationship-wise to you, you know, there's something inside me that wants to share good things that have helped me with other people, especially if I see them suffering. And I know that Ifa, through my diligent practice, Ifa has brought me so many blessings that I don't even have enough time to share them with you. And I wanted to see those blessings also manifest for my family members. And my family members, they watched me. They saw the transformation. They saw the elevation too. They saw how I was receiving opportunities, you know, that were just extraordinary. They saw, you know, situations play out in my life that were simply extraordinary. And also what I am told by my mother is that spirits came to my mother in her dream. And I even one time came to my mother in her dream. And my mother was instructed to follow my spiritual guidance. My mother was instructed through the dream to follow my spiritual guidance. Through Ifa, I have a brother who is actually filming this right now. His name is Donald. And he was incarcerated, you know, again, the product of being misguided, you know, not having, you know, the adequate amount of support, family support, fatherly support, you know, to just help him and protect him from the vampiric, you know, predatory elements of this society for a young melanated male. And he went into prison at a very young age, and it just tore me apart. It tore me apart. I'm very happy to see him thriving and doing well today, and I expect even greater things out of him. But when he was incarcerated, Ifa made a lot of predictions about him that all happened. They all came to pass. Ifa made some amazing predictions about him through simple obi casting. I'm not even talking about Opele and, you know, Ìyánífá. I'm talking about simple obi. And these predictions, you cannot ignore them. They were too specific. They were too detailed. They were too on point. And they were too, you know, what do you call it? 1 in a million. They were too 1 in a million, you know, of a chance that this prediction could be correct. But they were correct and on point every single time. Maybe one day, if you would like, I can ask him, you know, if you could talk to him and he could tell you for himself, or my mother for herself, what encouraged them to, you know, begin to pick Ifa up and practice Ifa on their own. I was the keeper of my mother and my sister's is what's called Ìṣẹ́fà, or hand of Ifa. I was their keeper for a few years before they decided, hey, give me my own hand of Ifa. I want to take care of it myself. And they took it from me, and they began to care for their Ìṣẹ́fà, Ìyánífá, hand of Ifa on their own, and began to be more diligent students. At this time, my mother and my sister and my brother and my sister-in-law, I'm sorry, a big old suburban green truck just passed by. And my sister-in-law, they all enrolled in my Ifa Academy, and I became, in a more structured and a more disciplined way, their spiritual guide and facilitator. I began to do rituals and ceremonies and invite them so that they could observe and get, you know, one-on-one and group hands-on practicum experience with the tradition. I began to invite them to ceremonies and bimbes and Ifa festivals that we were having, so that they could get the exposure. And so I didn't make them. You know, I just prayed to God that, you know, their hearts would be open, that their minds would be open, that their spirits would be open to what I have to share, and that they would allow it to bless them and help them in their lives too, and also for us as a cohesive family unit. Adrienne, would you hold on? This is my sister. She's trying to bring me her Ìṣẹ́fà now so that I can feed her Ìṣẹ́fà for her. Hold on, I need to tell her I'm in the backyard. Angel, where you at? Oh, we're in the backyard doing the interview. Come on back here. The camera's rolling, so just sit your Ishaifa on the ground. Oh no, sit it on the step, No, give it to me in my hand. Okay, okay. Time for one more question because this battery is not fully charged, and then I'll need to, text you because I have to run out of here quickly. Also, I'll need to text one another about scheduling the next one.
Okay, no problem. And then I think just a good way to, wrap up today's interview is, so through your travels, in Nigeria, when you came back, if you could sum up, what you learned from your experience this past trip, and anything that you wish that most people would know that maybe could not make the trip right now, or saving to make the trip. What is one thing that you would share with them that you learned that is most valuable to you?
That is, Adrienne, I want to get you. No, if I meet you, I'll give you a big old hug. Your questions are amazing. You're really, really thoughtful interviewer, and I appreciate the energy and the thought that you have put into the questions very, very, very much.
Thank you.
You're welcome. Off top, the one thing, you're only giving me one thing, right?
One thing. I can maybe please do. It's all up to you.
I think I'm gonna give you the one. I'm gonna give you the one. No, I'm gonna give you two. One thing is that Dafa is real. Dafa saves. Get Dafa. If you are able to, get the reading, get the divination done prior to your trip. Because there are spiritual forces that have insight about your mission and what you are seeking to accomplish that can manifest in the form of challenging situations, challenging people, etc., to cause you distraction from fulfilling your spiritual mission. It is getting the Dafa on the front end that will appease and protect you and clear the path for you to benefit the most from the trip. That's number one. If you are able to get the Dafa prior to traveling to Nigeria, save the money, include that in the budget, and get that Dafa done. If you are going as a group, then the group can get the Dafa done. But if you are going as an individual, then that needs to happen on your own. It is the most paramount, most important single piece of advice that I can give, because things will happen simply, like I said, on the truth that we are not alone in the world. Just because you can't see these spirits doesn't mean that they're not there. It doesn't mean that they don't exist, and it certainly doesn't mean that they don't have influence from the spiritual realm in the physical realm. They definitively do. They definitively do. And it is Dafa on the front end that will just make everything go in order to achieve one's highest destiny on the mission, or on the trip, and mission. The second thing, because I've decided to take advantage of it, is about character. To have the most bright, beautiful, divine character possible, even if that means you have to avoid certain situations, places, and or people. That the character needs to be stellar. It is so important. I cannot emphasize it enough, that work be done, and it will be perpetual, because challenges will come, and these spirits know your weak spots, your weak areas, and they will challenge you. And so, I do look at it as sometimes a test. Are you IfáŞèyí Bamgbàlà where you really think you are? Or where you really say you are? Are you really there? Let's see if you're really there. What are you going to do now in this situation? Sometimes I view it that way. And it really does make me pause when I'm confronted with these types of situations that make my adrenaline, shoot to my brain and have the potential to make me act impulsively. And so I would say getting Dafa on the front end and maintaining the most beautiful, radiant, divine, and stellar character possible. How many minutes?
Still going, but it's red. The battery's red, but it's still recording.
Okay, my battery's red, but it's still recording. That means we gotta stop. So yes, that's my 1 and 2 in response to that question.
Yeah, that's wonderful. I've just had so much fun. I really, really enjoyed this interview today.
Me too. You pulled me. Good.
I'm very excited for the next one. Okay,
me too. Thank you so much, Adriane. You definitely sent me on a roller coaster. My acting coach, he would give you, A pluses and 5 gold stars plus some more, because you definitely sent me on an emotional ride. You definitely sent me on a ride. I went to many different places and truthfully, responding to your questions. And I appreciate that. Thank you so much.
Yeah, that's wonderful. Thank you so much. It's an amazing opportunity that I have. So as far as just the formality of this goes, would you like me to write up what I notes? I put an audio recording of exchange today. I can send the audio recording to you tonight, but also would you like me, if it's helpful, to type out and order the questions that I've asked you?
Yes, please. Thank you.
Okay, wonderful. So I can go ahead and do that, and I can send it to your email if that works.
That'll work just fine. And I look forward to our next interview, Adriane. Thank you again. You cut out?
Hello?
Yes, I got you. You cut out again, so I'll just bid you adieu, tell you Odabo, and God bless you. Olodumare ireyo, atimo dupeo, adupeo. We thank you, and I'll talk to you soon.
Wonderful. Have a lovely night. Thank you. Hi, IfáŞèyí. How are you today?
Alafia, Adriane. I'm doing well. How about yourself?
Wonderful. Thank you.
That's good. I'm glad to hear that.
So I think we'll go ahead and jump right into it where we left off from last time, if that's okay with you.
Yeah, that's fine.
Okay, perfect. So last time, just kind of to recap from yesterday, we kind of finished where you shared 2 parts of wisdom, took advantage of sharing 2 parts of wisdom with me that you would like to share with other people. And so I think today I'd kind of like to get started in practicing Ifa and your way of practicing Ifa in the 21st century, and incorporating technology in your practice, and also sharing education. If you could just say how you got to use technology and why you use it.
I like that question very much. First, for anybody listening, and maybe this would be broken up, I will say Aboru, Aboye, Aboshishe, and that means may sacrifice manifest, may sacrifice be accepted, and may sacrifice be sanctioned. Yes, may sacrifice be sanctioned, may sacrifice be accepted, and may sacrifice manifest. Aburu, aboye, abosishe. So whatever it is that we are expending our life force accomplishing, if it is in alignment, with our highest destiny, I pray that it manifests into that prayer. I will say Ashe, may it be so. We talked about technology last time, and I really appreciate that question, because sometimes if it doesn't obviously fit into the square, we may try to dismiss it. Many people may reject it. it may have a difficult time being incorporated. But for those whom Olodumare is God, what most, Westerners know to be God in the Yoruba pantheon, or the Yoruba spirituality of Ifa. When Olodumare grants us advances, for me and from my frame of reference, everything is about Ifa. Ifa being the entire universe. That includes God at the top of the hierarchy of everything. That includes all Orishas, Àwọn Orishas, the spiritual forces that God delegated and sanctioned to exist to assist humanity. Our ancestor spirits, maternal and paternal. Ifa includes the spirit of our destinies as well. All priests, priestesses, devotees, and all people and animal and plants of the planet, including nature. When Olodumare puts something in place, for me, in my frame of reference, I see it in the framework or from the framework of Ifa. And anything that I can use to teach people about Ifa, to teach, about Olodumare, to teach about the Àwọn Òrìṣà, I will use it. I will incorporate that. I am very thankful to technology because it has enabled me to reach more people. When I first started the Center for Ifa Development and Education, or Center for Ifa Education and Development, I began teaching it out of my living room in New Orleans. And so it was really interesting. I had maybe about 15 students at the time. And actually, I was having gatherings like Bembe, spiritual ceremonies in my living room in New Orleans. And then I thought to myself, some people, they don't know about what we're doing. And my destiny, my Ori, my inner spirit, my inner consciousness told me that you should start teaching. And so I put out a call after developing that curriculum, and I actually started teaching from my living room. I want to say that one cycle was very successful. That was the very first cycle, and it took about 2 years after that, after each cycle, to complete the one stage of the academy. People started contacting me, from around the country and around the state that I was teaching from and the city that I was teaching from. I was getting requests to make it available to people who did not live in my area, and this was a few years later. It was from that moment that I decided that I needed to expand and use technology to reach more people. It was a very good friend of mine in the United States who is a cellular health specialist who encouraged me to utilize technology to accomplish this goal. Also, my experience with the military. I am the former director of psychological health for the United States Air Force Louisiana Air National Guard. And we did a lot of things using video teleconferencing because you have to reach so many airmen really worldwide. And I learned from that experience that it was not difficult to use video teleconferencing, to have meetings, to teach people, to have rituals even. And people who were not able to be present at rituals could join us virtually. Also, for practicum in my academy, people have, there's an academic component, there is a take-home, perpetual take-home component, and there's also a practicum component that I encourage the students and the AWOs to be present for. But in the event that they cannot be present, they are able to join us virtually. In that regard, technology has really helped to expand my horizon, helped me reach a plethora of more people. I want to say a couple of days ago, I received my first student who actually lives in Nigeria. And I was a bit, I don't want to say nervous, but I do want to say cautious. I was cautious about accepting her because I'm thinking to myself, wow, you live in Nigeria, you live, so close to Yoruba land this is where all of this started. You're so close to Ile-Ife, the city of love, in Nigeria, where many say, it is the origins, the birthplace of civilization. Why, are you calling me to take me on as a mentor and to be taken on by me as an apprentice? And so I wondered if I should refer her to some priests who I knew who actually lived in Nigeria. Now, rewinding a little bit, I got a warning from one of my last readings, and I didn't think about this at the time, that said, when Olodumare, when God or Ifa sends a student to me, I am the one who God wants to pair that student with. Don't send that student off to be trained by anyone else. And so I thought about that later, but I did do a divination just so I could make sure I was guiding her properly, and also to make sure that I was in alignment. I did divination to see if I should accept her as my apprentice, if I should have joint apprenticeship, share joint mentorship with another priest in Nigeria, or if I should just refer her to a few other priests in her area altogether. And Ifa told me exclusively I'm supposed to train this woman. And so I'm so thankful for technology, because if I did not have the skills and the aptitude, the introduction, the wherewithal to utilize technology to educate about Ifa, then that particular student, that woman, she would not have been able to work with me, because I don't live in Nigeria all the time. Only certain parts of the year am I there, and then certain parts of the year I'm in the United States. I'm very thankful to Orisha Ogun Ati Orisha Shango, because they are instrumental when we're talking about technology. Orisha Ogun being the Orisha of iron, of industrialization, of weaponry, of justice, of advocacy for children, of buildings and homes. Ogun, the combat strategist. Then you have Orisha Shango. Orisha Shango is the Orisha, are the energy, the natural force of lightning, of fire. And so in technology, we get to see how these two energies are paired together, to advance civilization. And unfortunately, when we behave out of alignment with nature, we also see how their energies can be used to cause devastation and hurt and retard civilization. But for those of us whom are divinely and spiritually aligned and are thinking from our prefrontal cortexes, we get to solicit and invoke the energies of Orisha Ogun and Orisha Shango via technology to help us further God's positive right-hand side of God's mission. And for me, that is the mission of Ifa, our ancestors, whether the ancestors are indigenous to the Americas or whether our ancestors are indigenous to other parts of the world. There are many of us who have access to information, who have access to knowledge, who have access to ancient and esoteric wisdoms that other people are searching for and that other people want to know about. And so I'm very thankful once again to technology, very thankful to Orishas Ogun and Orisha Shango for being the natural force vehicles for this medium of education, sharing, and communication. Connection.
Right. Yeah, exactly. And even without technology, we wouldn't have been able to do this today. So for that, I'm very grateful too.
Yeah, me too.
So I kind of along the lines of where you're finding the healthy amount of balance between, being a mentor, being an educator, and being a friend. How do you go about, finding this balance? And, does it change over time? How does that work for you?
Yeah, that's an excellent question as well, Adrienne. Very insightful. Very, you studied me, I see. I can see that. There is a balance that is absolutely necessary. My skills and the blessings God has given me as a psychologist, as a counselor, as a therapist have helped tremendously. I get a lot of people who want to learn about Ifa. They want to grow spiritually, but I also assess, without even trying to, that some people who come to me have psychological or psycho-emotional imbalances. And it is very necessary to speak with them very respectfully about those things, because you'll find that some of the issues or the challenges that they are having in their lives need to be addressed at multiple levels. Some people come to me separating spirituality from psychological health and well-being, and the thing about it is that it's just not true. Spirit is everything: psychological health, economic health, nutritional and physical health, environmental wellness. Spirit is everything. There's no extracting spirit from anything in the universe. And so for those people who come to me presenting those types of concerns, I have a very respectful conversation with them and encourage them to be as truthful as possible, because if there's any blockage at all, that will also inevitably affect their spiritual growth. And sometimes they want to achieve spiritual heights that they are retarded or blocked from, because they have not addressed some of these emotional issues or some of these psychological issues. And usually they do allow me to do that work. We end up having sometimes a dual relationship, but also I'm very blessed to be able to manage those dual relationships very, very well. To my brothers and my sisters in Ifa, I am a sister to them. I'm also a counselor to them. I'm also a spiritual guide to them. There is a great degree of discipline that is required on my own part, and self-awareness that is required on my own part, so that I do not inadvertently confuse people who come to me for assistance. I do have clients and students sometimes who want to become too personal, and I may assess that this has been a part of their presenting issue. And so usually the best way, more often than not, the best way to address those issues is by simply telling the truth in a very loving and a very nurturing, yet in a very respectful way. And that is, the best way I can describe how I manage serving in all those roles. And even sometimes I serve as a nutritionist, seeing that there is an imbalance in physical health. Getting people motivated to engage in meditative life movement or exercise is one of the most challenging things I have ever come across working with students and working with clients, because there's a psychological hurdle that has to be overcome in order for them to do that. Some people procrastinate, some people simply lack motivation, but I do notice that when everyone who is able to overcome that hurdle, about their second week into consistently exercising or engaging in meditative life movement, I have found that they look forward to it. It is more of a rewarding experience versus a chore or an experience that they're dreading approaching.
Yeah, that's very fascinating. So I want to touch back to where you were describing the energies and the interconnection between Ogun and Shango, if that's okay with you.
That's fine.
Okay, so a topic that we touched in class, and I think a lot of literature has gone, in the academic world has gone, in depth in this topic, is talking about the age of Ogun, and that's, kind of the age that we're living in now, where you describe as being, of iron and technology and strength. And, some may argue that this strength has been used too far, and people are getting enchanted with the idea of strength and technology. And so I think some argue that to get out of this, you can combat Ogun with Oshun. And I know you talked yesterday about Oshun and how you see her as your mother, Òrìṣà. So I think you may have very interesting insight on this. Whether or not you combat the masculinity of Ogun with the femininity of Oshun, or is it more of a connection that Oshun has with Shango?
Okay. Well, we look at it in terms of, balancing, more so than combat, which energies would balance out another. And at times, the energy of Orisha Ashun can definitely balance out an excess or an imbalance, of Ogun's energy, Orisha Ogun's energy. And it is also true that sometimes Orisha Ashun can, her energy or application of her energy, meditation for, internalization and application of her energy or life force can also balance out Baba Shango's energy. But she's not the only one. Also Orisha Obatala has been known to balance out, energies as well. Orisha Ashun, as we know, she is a nurturer. She is very, very, very sweet. And also we know that Orisha Orisha Batala, Epa Orisha, my Orisha, is known for bringing about a calm, a peace, a tranquility, a unification of all energies. And so it just depends on which, how can I say this in a way that everyone can understand? I really want to talk about Odu Ifa, but that might be a little above some people's heads. So I will just stick to the word energy. It depends on the primary energy, the dominant energy that is being expressed in a given situation. Now, to best I can and continue to be as basic as I can, in Ifa, we would call that Odu, an expression of Odu. Odu is energy as well. Odu can manifest in a multitude of variations and situations. And so when we are, I'm sorry, there's a helicopter flying above my head. I don't know if that's going to affect the audio or not. Maybe I should let it pass. That's not a helicopter. That sounds more like a Cessna or something. I wish I could see it. I can hear it though. It's definitely not a helicopter. I believe I was right about that. I think it's a Cessna. Anyway, so, Odu can express herself, in a variety of situations and energies. And so it depends on the primary energy that she is expressing herself in that would give us the formula, if you will, for applying another energy to balance out another energy. Does that make sense?
It does, and I never really looked at it in the sense of, not just one Orisha, but maybe multiple Orishas, depending on the situation.
Correct. That can happen. There can be a multitude of them that might be appropriate to, meditate, invoke, or internalize their energy, or look at the way they've expressed themselves throughout history for us to learn the lesson and take the medicine that is being offered in those examples, in those Odufa, or in those parables, for us to create an environment that is conducive for peace and balance in any given situation.
Interesting. So I just want to hear your thoughts. As I said, the theory that I gave you before was, kind of something that academics have taken. What is your interpretation of, academics studying Ifa from the outside perspective, who may have background in a different religion or maybe not be religious or spiritual at all? And how do you think, what do you think their credibility, not even credibility, but do you think it's appropriate to apply, Ifa to situations occurring today?
I think that I know I know that it is always appropriate to apply Ifa to everything going on today. Ifa is an ancient wisdom, and I believe that were we to have followed more of the ancient wisdoms, whether it was Ifa or other indigenous spiritual practices, our planet would not be in the condition that it's in today. Our people worldwide, and I'm not just talking about melanated people, but worldwide humanity would be in a different place. I believe honestly that we would be closer to a utopian existence. Some people believe that that is a fantasy. That actually can exist. It can exist if we all live in harmony with nature. Some people believe in this new world order where nature has no order, where nature is being exploited. We're drilling, we are, not conscientiously consuming things and utilizing things. And that we're paying for that right now. We're paying for it. And our future generations will pay for it if we do not continue to have innovative minds, think of ways to live in harmony with the universe in an eco-friendly manner. And that is also happening, just juxtaposed to those who would seek to carelessly and inconsiderately exploit our planet's resources. What do I think about people strictly coming from an academic perspective? We need academians. We do. Different people have different destinies and different paths, and so I'm very respectful of that. But I would admonish us not to strictly lean on an academic, application of Ifa, because that is so unidimensional, and Ifa is everything. Spirit is everything. God is everything, Alpha and Omega. And so it's very important that those academians also investigate the practical applications of Ifa. There is so much that will not be conveyed in a textbook or in, reading essays and literary works on Ifa. I can speak on that from personal experience. I am a scholar of Ifa. I have all kinds of literature on Ifa. I'm also a scavenger for out of print books on Ifa, and I've collected quite a sum of them. And reading those books, I'm telling you, even if you read them multiple times, it does not compare to being live and present during rituals, being live and present and fully open during ceremonies, being live and fully present during people's and your own rites, your own spiritual rites of passage for various reasons. There is no comparison to being present when food for the Òrìṣà are being cooked, or food for àwọn Òrìṣà are being cooked and prepared and served. There's no comparison to being at the Oshun River. No comparison to being in Ekiti, at the mountain where Orunmila practiced his spiritual works, or at the, at the home of Baba Ishu, or at the home of Baba Ogun. To be physically present, in those spaces is, I cannot describe it. I cannot describe it. There are no words. One has to be there, and you will see that what one has received in textbooks in the academic world or word of mouth from persons who have been there themselves is no comparison at all in any way, shape, or form to actually having that hands-on practical experience for oneself and being open during those experiences.
Right, and I can tell you that this conversation and dialogue that we're having today and yesterday, so it's incomparable to what I'm reading in class, but it's so invaluable. I just value it so much because, like I said, I wouldn't be able to read it, but it's an experience that I'm very grateful for.
Thank you so much for telling me that and letting me know that. And likewise for me too, Adrienne. Thank you.
Absolutely. So I want to kind of, you said that it is appropriate, always appropriate to incorporate Ifa into everything because Ifa is everything. And your video, I think it was in December of 2014, so some years ago, and this is on YouTube, and you're, I think, in Louisiana. Correct me if I'm wrong.
I'll try to remember myself as you continue to speak.
Pardon?
I will try to recall myself as you continue to speak. I still don't know which one you're talking about, but if I keep listening, I'll figure it out.
It's the video of a prayer. I think it was you and two other women who were conducting a prayer, and then at the end of the prayer, right before the video cut out, the singing that you were doing, you then started singing "Hands Up, Don't Shoot," and so I thought this was very powerful to take a very political something that was happening in the political world and incorporate it into Ifa. So how did you decide to do that?
Wow, I know which video you're talking about, and I just got chills from my head all the way down to my fingertips and my legs as you described that, because I remember what that was like for all of us. That was myself, my very, 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 very good spiritual sisters, Bamgbàlà and Dana in New Orleans, Louisiana, and our amazing audience that provided the beat and joined us in crowd participation. Yes, it's always appropriate. That video is a live demonstration of it. How we came to do that was very unintentional. There was a shooting of a young melanated brother while his hands were up. It was unnecessary. It was an unnecessary shooting. He could have been apprehended and, subdued without him being murdered, without his life being taken. And at the time, we were performing what's called performance art, spiritual ritual performance art, specifically ritual performance art. All of us are either devotees, the three of us, all of us are either devotees or priests in some capacity in a traditional African spirituality. And that bonds us together, that keeps us close. We're always pretending to be different Orishas and doing the dances of those Orishas and, dramatizing, the personalities of those Orishas. And we have a lot of fun with it. The idea to take a political stand during that Orisha performance was not planned. We did not plan that. That was not in the rehearsals. It just fell into place. And a lot of times when we are doing things that are in alignment with spirit, that is exactly what will happen. There will be some beautiful things that are created that you just can't, intentionally plan on your own. And literally that just evolved while we were going over the Orisha performance. And our goal was to salute the audience. Initially, that's what the plan was to salute the audience. But then I believe it might have been, I don't really know who it was, so I won't even say. One of us said we should say hands up, don't shoot. This fits perfectly with hands up, don't shoot. And so we coordinated at that time very quickly, who would do the call and who would do the response. And it just morphed into hands up, don't shoot, from initially being a salutation of respect to the audience, to the destinies of all the participants in the audience.
Yeah, that's incredible. Yeah, I remember when I was watching that video for the first time, I was extremely impressed and also just speechless too, because I thought it was such a beautiful, powerful thing that you guys did during the performance.
Thank you. And I'll let the other Iyas, I won't Iya, I'll let them know that. I'll let them know that you said that.
Yeah, so I think, kind of, we talked about practicing Ifa in conjunction with technology and, using technology to educate others. Just through your experiences, it doesn't have to be related to anything to do with technology, but what in your experience, being an educator of Ifa, what has been the most valuable lesson that you have learned?
Will you repeat the last sentence of the question? Being an educator of Ifa, what's the most valuable what?
most valuable thing that you have learned?
Wow. Being an educator of Ifá, the most valuable thing that I've learned is to follow Ifá. It's a reiteration, actually. It's to follow Ifá. There would, whenever a person has a destiny to blaze new trails or pioneer new things, there is always the high likelihood that people will love that person for that initiative, and people will naysay and bah humbug, and some people will resent, because this is being done. You run the likelihood of being on the receiving end on a multitude of extreme emotional reactions from people. I took a look at my YouTube comments. I had no idea the activity that was going on in the comments, because I've gone to Nigeria for 4 months, and so busy doing the training and traveling there that I wasn't always looking at the comments. To get back to the States and start reading some of the comments that people were leaving. And the interesting thing is, I didn't even have to say anything, because the other YouTube followers, began to address some of these comments and some of these statements. The most valuable lesson is to follow Ifá, keep your eyes on Ifá, keep your eyes on your spiritual guidance, keep your eyes on your prescriptions, keep your eyes on your Odu from your Itefa, your Ifá initiation. Keep your eyes on, the wisdom and the voices of your ancestors as they are guiding you and paving the way, opening up a path for you. As I mentioned before, I want Òrìṣà. The Òrìṣà, they speak to me directly. My ancestors speak to me, my Ekunkun, they speak to me directly, and they tell me what to do. They show me where to go. They tell me where to turn. They sometimes direct me to who to talk to. And I say, keep our eyes on them. People will come, and it is God's sanction for these naysayers to be present. They're God's sanction to exist and be there. And so you just let them, while you keep your eyes on your path and you move forward. And don't give any attention, psychic attention, emotional attention, psychological attention, spiritual attention to those people. Do our work to remain protected, and then we stay covered from any psychic or spiritual attacks, by doing your own spiritual work, our own spiritual work. We stay protected by, what's the spiritual work? Okay, that's a great question. I know you didn't ask it, but I ask it for myself. What is the spiritual work? The spiritual work is praying, daily. The spiritual work is chanting and meditating daily. The spiritual work is daily nutritional health and wellness, being mindful of eating foods and drinking beverages for our optimal cellular health. Meditative life movement. This is different from regular exercise. I'll just speak about meditative life movement. Meditative life movement incorporates meditation with kinesthetic movement. The spiritual work is also the rituals, various rituals for spiritual, psychological, and emotional wellness, economic wellness, family, marital, motherly and fatherly wellness. Environmental wellness. That is the spiritual work. The spiritual work is communion with brothers and sisters and like-spirited people. The spiritual work is also connecting with new people, even if they are not like-minded or like-spirited, because if we don't do that, then we run the risk of becoming, separatists or elitists. And we don't want to contribute to having a homogenous society. We want to, incorporate and encourage, learning about and talking to people who are different from ourselves and who come from different backgrounds than ourselves. And for me, that is how I have continued to have reinforced to me that we are so much more similar than we are different. There are truths about differences that do exist, and they must be acknowledged as well. But we do have so many similarities and so many likenesses if we will allow ourselves to know one another and shed the fear of communing with one another. And so for me, being open in those ways is really critical. And now I want to ask, what was your question again? What was that question again?
What the valuable thing of being an IFA educator?
Yeah, I would say that's it. Keep your eyes on Ifa. Keep your eyes on that spiritual guidance and the spiritual wisdom, spiritual insights. Listen to it, follow it, trust it, have faith in it.
So I want to take this, 180 degrees kind of, and instead, what has been the most challenging thing that you have had to overcome or learn as a devotee or practicer or even a mentor and educator of IFA?
Okay. Yeah, you did. You took it all the way 180, 360. The most challenging thing, I was thinking about this today, and I hope I don't start to cry. Maybe if I say that, I won't cry. The most challenging thing has been betrayal. I will say that. That's the truth. The most challenging thing has been betrayal from other, practitioners of Ifa, people who I just held in very high regard. But I always kept in my mind as well, something my grandmother would say and still says to this day: don't put none past nobody. And what that means is, anyone has the potential to go left or right, including myself, if I don't remain spiritually aligned. The most challenging thing has been learning of misdeeds that were done by people who were well known in the spirituality, who were well known in the tradition, who have hurt other people, and utilizing their positions of spiritual authority to exploit and hurt and assault, abuse, manipulate other people. As a psychologist, I get a lot of people who tell me a lot of secrets. I know a lot of things that I must keep to myself forever. And being in this position and being in the position of a trusted Ìyánífá and Ifa priest, people call me and they ask me for guidance about what they should do about different things. Sometimes these are people who have been hurt, injured, or exploited themselves. And sometimes these are people who are advocates for them, saying maybe they're afraid to call you, but they trust you, and they ask me to call you for them. I'm always going to try to get that person to talk to me because I would rather get the story firsthand. But I also respect if that person's afraid and they don't want to. If I can't get the person to talk to me directly, I will see if they would mind being on a three-way conference call with the person whom they do trust, as a witness and as a supporter for them. Being in this role and position over the years, I have been... it is a blessing. It is a blessing to know these things are going on. It is a blessing also to be in a position to help people heal and recover from being traumatized in these ways. For those who I have been able to assist. From those people who have called, I have learned of so many offenses that is jaw-dropping. I have learned of so many offenses from mostly male Ifa priests, and things they have done to mostly women, devotees. And it has also put me in a position to see what some of the clients are doing as well. I'm always going to put the burden of responsibility on the priest, though, because they are the ones in the ethical and moral position of hierarchy. They are the ones in the position of professional authority. And to that degree, I hold them more responsible for ethical behavior and appropriate behavior than I hold the clients who are coming to them As I mentioned before, when I'm talking about these women and these male priests specifically, a lot of these women have emotional issues from childhood. Many of them have been molested. Many of them have been raped. Many of them have been assaulted sexually in one way, shape, or form or another. Many of them are looking for love, and unfortunately, they have learned inappropriate ways of seeking that. And so some of them may come on really strong to the Ifa priest. It matters not to me what the female client does. The male priest is in a position of authority and knowing better, about how to appropriately manage those situations and truly be in a position to help that woman heal and triumph over those maladaptive ways of learning how to seek out love and receive love. Now, I have also learned of offenses from female priests also, but they are far, fewer than the offenses from the male priests. Now, that could be very well because there simply are more male priests. Remember, also I said this has been, a male-dominated spirituality when it comes to people in priesthood or genders in the priesthood. Practicing and divining priests, they are mostly men. So that could be, a reason for the skew in the numbers as well. But I have also gotten small numbers of cases of female priests who have, hurt or participated in hurting clients, both male and female clients. And the offenses have not always been sexual offenses. Sometimes the offenses are economic offenses. Sometimes the offenses are rifts in marriage, contributing to the breaking apart of families. And I know that additional skills as counselors or life coaches or psychologists or psychology would help priests a great deal. Just because one becomes an Ifa priest does not necessarily make one a competent counselor or does not necessarily make one a competent therapist. So it would not hurt people in the priesthood to go and take some workshops or some trainings and, ethics and morality and relationship dynamics. Effective relationship building dynamics. It wouldn't hurt at all. It would be very beneficial if we would go the step further to train ourselves in that way as well.
Of course, betrayal on any sense of the word is very disheartening. But
right.
I think one thing that when we parted yesterday over the phone, I was really thinking about, the strong emphasis you had on character. And I think this can go, hand in hand, and with what your answer just was. And, for those working or who want to have better character, or, character never stops growing in
right.
my head, in my mind. And so I wanted to hear your thoughts on, advice that you give to others who want to have a better character, and let their character grow.
Yeah, I love that question. I love this topic. I love this topic very, very much because I believe in it so very, very much. Yeah. First of all, one has to want to. That's number one. One has to want to and be praying and meditating for truth to be revealed to them about their strengths and their weaknesses, and be open to the mirror of other people sharing with them. Now, some people, will project their own issues onto another person. That's true. But always it's good to actually evaluate, is what this person is saying about me actually true? Do I do this sometimes? Do I have a tendency, to be hypercritical? Do I have a tendency to procrastinate? Do I have a tendency, to do things in a sloppy manner? These are all things that we don't want to hear about ourselves, or we might not necessarily like. But if we are truly seeking to have improved character, it's worth it to ask ourselves, are any of the critiques that I get about myself true? So prayer and meditation on the truth to be revealed of ourselves to ourselves is the first thing. Having an open mind, being clear-minded, to self-evaluate, to self-analyze, to self-assess. These are techniques that will assist with character improvement and character development as well. Also, it would not hurt priests and priestesses in the priesthood to commune with one another sometimes, to specifically talk about these topics on purpose versus they come up in a happenstance way. Because Ifa is, a traditional spirituality, it's just now coming into play where things are formalized on a professional setting, where we're having workshops intentionally about dynamics within Ifa, such as character, such as ethics, such as relationship building, such as how to work with clients who have been, abused sexually or violently abused. A lot of times the priests don't have the skills to deal with it. Just recently, I have learned of about, I want to say one priest who was, murdered by his student. Another priest who was physically assaulted by his student. And another priest as another female priest being assaulted by, physically assaulted by her student. And I myself personally recently had a student that tried to verbally fight with me. I'm so thankful that, I know what I know. I had enough skills to respectfully and diplomatically and professionally de-escalate that situation, back away from the situation, and articulate to the client that I will not go here with you, especially in a text message. I would like to speak with you to resolve this issue. And so we need workshops. Oh, hold on. I told you I'm in a bamboo grove, and I'm in a bamboo grove, and any noises that I hear behind me that are, subtle or loud, I'm turning around. I'm turning around, and I bought I bought my machete with me too, because there's all kind of creatures out here, and they're probably looking at me like there's all kind of creatures out here. So I'm okay. It's just the birds, they're doing their thing. But it's going back to your question about what do I think could be done to improve that. Those are just a few things. Those are things that we can do on an individual level, and also the workshops, the intentional trainings on these topics on a professional level are also necessary. But we have to see that there's a value in it. We have to see that there's an importance in it. That means people have to take the priesthood seriously and to a whole nother level. It can't just be about you trying to get money or get rich. It really has to be from a genuine place of helping, helping humanity, serving God first and foremost. And with that, keeping that in mind and keeping that in the forefront, that will motivate people, priests and priestesses, to want to improve the integrity of the priesthood, to want to improve the fabric, of the priesthood. This is not far-fetched from the morals of our ancestors. It's just that nowadays we have, more insight. We have more insight about the things that have plagued us globally, thanks to communication and thanks to technology. Certain forces of oppression set things in place to keep people divided, so that we would not, know one another, all for the purpose of stopping us from unifying and rebelling, against that order, or rebelling against, an order being set in place to create a world and a society that is removed from nature. But it's not like that anymore. We can communicate with one another. We can reach out to one another. And we do know a lot of the issues that each other has as a culture, as a community, and as a society in different parts of the world that are contributing to our stagnation. And so this is certainly one of them. We can do something about that.
Right. No, that's really interesting, taking it, as an approach the way that you did. I hope maybe we can end today's interview on more of a reflective question for you, if that's okay.
Sure, that's okay.
Okay, so, I've learned so much from the past 2 days, and it's very interesting.
Thank you.
Very interesting for me. And so I just, wanted to ask you personally where you think your relationship with Ifa, where you see it going, if you see you incorporating or expanding your academy, or, your personal relationship with Ifa and how it will help you in, maybe future situations to come, to make me more of it's a reflective question for you.
Okay, so it's where do I see Ifa going and where do I see the academy going? There's two
your relationship with Ifa, where do you see that?
My relationship with Ifa, I was just thinking this morning, it's going up and out. It's expanding. I can't go backwards. I know too much. I know too much. I have too much wisdom, and God just keeps seeing me fit to receive more. And that is saying so much. I am really blessed, Adriane. I can't, I don't even know how many more ways I can say that to make it as big as it is in my life. I'm so blessed. I am not perfect, but I try, diligently to follow my instructions that are God-given to me. To do exactly to do the things that I'm encouraging people to do in my academy. My students will tell you that woman does what she tells us to do. She's not just telling us to do it and she doesn't do it herself. She does it herself, and that's how she knows it works. And that's why she's, so adamant about us doing certain things, because she's seen how it has worked in her life. I'm going up, Adriane. I'm going out. I am expanding. I am going further. God is elevating me. God is ascending me. My brother even said it. He said, what did he say? Some slang term. I don't remember what the slang term was. But it was some, about elevation. He's like, you about to go even higher. God is about to yank you up even higher with, your priesthood. I can see it. My brother's psychic also. All of my mother's children are psychic. And we all see things for each other. And my mother's psychic as well. So we all see things for each other. And, help each other out in those ways. But he told me, I see you. I see you ascending. And I know that God is doing that for me because of another vision that I had when I was in Nigeria when I first got there. Something God showed me, through my Ori, through my destiny. And so expansion and contraction, they inevitably go hand in hand. So I will contract as well, but there will be a lot more expansion than contraction. I know that Olodumare, God Almighty, my ekunkumi, oripin me, my destiny, atimbogbo awon Orisha, and all our Orisha, they are elevating me. As long as I continue to do my spiritual work, not only will I have grace, but I will also have favor. A lot of times people know better and they don't do better. They continue to have grace. God continues to allow them to live and breathe and function. But for those who are diligent about making those sacrifices, to follow those prescriptions, to follow their directives, to follow God's instructions, to continue to work on their character day after day, God grants grace and favor. And I am going to do everything I can to remain, in the spotlight of the both.
Yeah, that's amazing. So, what I took away, I think, really most just now is that your students even tell you.
You broke up?
Can you hear me?
I got you now. Can you repeat that? My students even tell me?
Oh, they tell you and they will tell us.
You broke up again, or it cut out again right there.
Let me try to hear this. Okay, can you hear me?
Yes.
Okay, so I was saying your students will tell you and also tell others, like what you just told me, is that they really trust you because they know that what you tell them, you done and you know from experience. And so I think that on your part is very, very selfless and extremely encouraging and very, very moving.
Thank you, Adriane. Yeah, I love my students very much. I don't think they'll ever know. I don't think they'll ever know how much I love them and how much I care. I think some of them, they definitely feel it. They feel it. I can say that. Many of them, they feel it. But there, I don't have any words that I know of in the English language anyway to describe my level of care and love for my students and my investment in them becoming well-rounded and grounded in this tradition.
Well, thank you again very much for this opportunity. I've learned so much, and I think, I hope I've helped you too, maybe in a way.
Oh yeah, a lot of ways.
But incredible opportunity.
Thank you, Adriane, and you are so welcome. We give thanks and praises to Olodumare and Ifa, all of our ancestors. And I salute your destiny, Adriane. I salute your destiny and mine. Again and again and again.
Thank you, and you as well.
Thank you, Adriane. And I will send you a text, I guess, to schedule the next one, or is there a next one?
This is all that I had. I didn't know if you wanted to continue, but these are all the topics that I had scheduled.
So we covered everything then. I can't think of anything at this time, but if I think of anything that I would have liked for you to ask me, then I can just text you and ask you if you wouldn't mind doing that. But I can't think of anything at this very moment.
Okay, wonderful. And I'd be happy to do that if at any time you can think of anything.
Okay, will do, Adriane. Enjoy the rest of your Saturday, okay?
Thank you. Have a great weekend.
You too. Odabo. Peace and blessings.
Bye.
Odabo.